Welcome to this webinar today. We're going to focus on school-wide aggregate and progress reporting features. If you enter your name and your email address in your school, I will send you a copy of this recording as well as a copy of the PowerPoint at the end of the session. Oh, actually, when I get back to Wellington. So also in the chat, I am putting a link to some key resources so that you know where to find them. Here we go. As we go throughout this webinar, please put questions in the chat and I will answer those at the very end. Ma whiro, ma pongo kaiota I te mahi. Each element has a role. As we bring a range of information about our konga together, we develop a rich picture about their learning. The reporting features and assist enables you as teachers and leaders to dig deeper into the data. And that's what we're going to focus on today, is around the reporting aggregate and progress data. So this webinar focuses on school-wide aggregate and progress reporting features. When these reports are properly interpreted and used in conjunction with other information, the results of the PAT assessment can provide a rich information about our konga progress and achievement. And there'll be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. Let's just start with a couple of key reminders regarding the purpose of assessments. PAT assessments are designed to support kaiako and tūmauaki on many levels. Understanding where our konga are at in their learning journey, identify progress and achievement, and support identifying patterns of strengths and next steps for our konga's learning, and inform decisions about teaching and learning along with strategic planning, as well as support communicating with family and whānau about our konga progress and next steps. In light of this, we must remember that PAT assessments are just one source of evidence of learning that provide a snapshot at a particular moment in time, but also support a progress story over time. To be properly interpreted, the results should be supplemented by other forms of information kaiako have at their fingertips, those rich daily conversations and observations that happen in the classroom. This session will mainly focus on the use of scale scores when considering progress over time. It is important to understand the purpose of scale scores and stay-nines when interpreting reports. Scale scores enable an individual and group progress story to be identified on an equal interval scale. Stay-nines compare an individual's learner achievement with a national representative sample based on year levels. Just something to remember when we are looking at the reports in a minute. In the chat, I've placed a link to this monitoring progress document. Scroll to the bottom of the web page to locate the document, Monitoring Progress and Learning. This document will be updated at the start of 2025 to reflect the latest norms for Pangaro and Pānui. So this document helps you consider what does progress look like across a year by using the mean scores to consider equivalent of a year's progress. Here's an example. We can consider progress for our konga using scale scores. The table on the screen illustrates for PAT Pangaro the average of 1 year's progress utilising the difference between 2 points, in this case between 2 year levels. And it's between the two mean scores of those 2 year levels that you get the average progress. So for example, between year 5 and year 6, the average progress is 6.1. A key point to remember is that the impact on any scale changes on an individual student's scale score will almost be within error. So you can still reliably track their progress across time using scale scores as long as the margin of error is taken into account. And you can find that on an individual learner's report where it has the plus or minus error beside their scale score. One more little reminder is that we'll mainly be exploring reports that use the box plots, sometimes called a box and whisker graph. A box plot shows how the scale scores for a group of students are spread across the range. When interpreting box plot, it is important to look at the data table alongside the graph, or in the situation where small numbers are a kunga, focus on the data table. Focus on the data table alone. The aggregate and the progress over time reports use box plots to show how a group of students' results compare with the achievement of a national reference sample for a particular year level. And in our reports, they're shaded grey in the background as the national reference data. One handy little hint for today's session as well is within Assist, there's a solutions portal with a wealth of information, including a section on report features. You will find the help button at the bottom left of the screen. It's got that little eye beside it. It's a one-stop shop for all your questions. I'll show you when we go into Assist in a moment. The reports we're going to look at today is the aggregate, the progress over time, and the learner progress reports. Aggregate reports generate year-level reports for a specific term in a calendar year. Multiple year levels can be shown on a report. There is a range of reports available: list, year level, box plot, and stay 9. And when viewing only one year level, the item and the individual item reports are available for static tests. The year level report allows schools to compare all of their students' scale achievement at a particular year level with the scale achievement of the national reference group. And the year level group report uses box plots. One thing we must remember is in terms 1, 2, and 3, the reference group will be the same year level as the students. So if they're year 3, it'll be year 3. But in term 4, the reference year level will be the following year, as these results are closer in time, having been collected at that time point. So once again, if they're year 3 in term 4, they will be referenced against year 4. It is important to know that students reported on in the year level report do not have to have taken the same test. The use of scale scores enables this collated report, which can be compared regardless of which tests in the test PAT series was originally taken. This is the same functionality in the progress over time reports. Progress over time reports. These generate reports that illustrate multiple time points within a year and across calendar years. Just like the aggregate reporting functionality, progress reports have excellent filtering systems for gender, ethnicity, year levels, and classes. Multiple classes and groups can be generated on the same report. The final report we look at is the individual learner progress report. The individual learner progress reports illustrate progress over time at time points assessments have been set for an individual student. The individual student report can be accessed from this report by clicking on the black dot, which is the scale score. All our reports are interactive between each other, so you'll be able to go directly to the individual student report. But there's one other key feature I'd like to draw your attention to, and that is the functionality of monitoring groups of learners within Assist. Schools can create a group within classes and add a kunga to the new class or group. Classes and groups are treated in the same way on Assist. A kunga can be in multiple classes, and this won't impact school-wide reporting. Just remember though, a kunga should only sit one assessment per subject in a term. When there is multiple data for a student in a term for one subject, each of these assessments are counted in the overall data set. But this is a really useful functional feature if you're wanting to just monitor a group and generate a report just on that group. You can do so within Assist. We're going to go into Assist now, and I'm going to take you through those 2 key features I talked about, but also take you through the 3 reports. And I'm going to use a demo set of data for you. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm just going to bring in the demo set. Here. Okay, so now I am in a demo set of data for my workshops, and I'm going to use PAT Mathematics today to show you. Now, first of all, down the bottom here, you can see this little eye. That's the help function. So when you hover over the top, it pops up, and this is where it takes you through to the NZCR, what we call the solutions portal. So here we go. In the solutions portal, you have everything to help you get started. It talks about the refreshed PATs, reporting features, stainlines and scale scores, how to assess online. Everything that you need to know is all here in this portal. You can put in a question or search for something as well. So it's a one-stop shop, everything you need to know. And it's being updated as well regularly. The other thing I talked about was setting up a monitoring group. So you go to classes and you can create a group here just by creating a group. But I've already set up a group called Monitoring Year 5s. So here's my 2024 Monitoring Year 5s. I've added them as a group within the classes function here. And then I can just add the students I want to be monitoring closely. So I might have identified a cohort group of students that you want to monitor closely to see that they're progressing as a group, or you might put an intervention in place and you want to see how they're progressing as a group. You can put them all in here just by adding students. So students can be in multiple classes or multiple groups, but because they've only set one assessment, only that one assessment will go into the overall school set of data. So that's that functionality. Okay, so we're going to go through reports. So on the left-hand side down here, we're going to go into reports. I'm going to start with learner progress to start with. And this is where you get that individual learner progress report that shows that trajectory over time. I'm going to click on the student I'm searching for, Brandon. So if you know the name of the student, you can search. I'm searching for Brandon here. Got data from last year and this year. So this child has sat mathematics and STAR, so I can see the progress of this learner for both of these assessments that have been sat. If I hover over the top, it comes up with the raw score and the scale score and the stayline. And if I click on that black dot, which is the scale score, it takes me directly through to the individual report for that time. Okay, so it's all interactive going in between. If you've got multiple, you may also have reading comprehension in here. That will also add in. So you get a full suite of what that looks like for the student. What sits behind in the blue piece down the bottom is the blue is the mean data, the national mean data, and then the pale blue is the 50 percentile, which is like the 50% of the box and whisker. And the green little shaded piece is just the trajectory it's showing of that student's learning journey. So just like you saw in the PowerPoint, there's some students who've had multiple twice in a year. It'll just track it all the way through. So that is the learner progress one. I'm going to start by looking at the aggregate report. The aggregate report enables you to look at a year level at one particular point in time. So we're going to look at term 1 in maths, and I'm going to look at all tests for this school, and they go from year 4, no, year 3, all the way through to year 8. So I get a full suite of data. And I need to make sure I look at, here is the list report, there's a stayline and a year level report. But when I look at the top here, this is the data table I was referring to. It's really important, particularly if you've got smaller numbers in your school of cohorts or groups, to look at the data table. So in the data table mean, I can see where this year group's mean is compared to the national mean in the brackets. Okay, so I can start to see a comparison. And of course, I have the means over to the right too. And 5.0 is the average mean of the national reference data. So it's like the top of the bell curve. A list report lists every single student who sat that test, but I can also use my filters. If I just wanted to look at year 3 students, I can just pull up year 3s. Then I can use the tabs in here around scale score. I can put them in scale score order. So now they're in order based on scale score. I may decide I want to look at who my stay9 1, 2s, and 3s are, because maybe I just want to check and see how they got on and compared to what I know about them in the classroom. And did I put the right conditions in for them to sit the test? What else do I know? So you can actually pull out groups of learners in here too. And the filters on the side, you can filter by boys and girls too, but we won't do that for the list. Stay9 report. I'm not going to talk too much about the Stay9 report, but it is one report that this is where your school is in relation to the national norm reference data. So this has got quite a nice bell curve, this little cohort here. I can use the filters on the right and put on males and females. And there it gives me another picture. So by digging down into the data using the filters, you start to see different pictures that start to surface. And this is where you start to ask questions of the data or hunches you may have about the data. And that's where you want to explore further. Okay. You can add an ethnicity. So this is the whole school. I'm going to see where our Māori students are sitting in comparison. So then I can see where they are. We have the number of students sitting in the box 2 to be aware of. If you hover over one of the little people, your little people icon, you get the student's name. And if you click on it, it takes you directly through to the individual report. Like I said before, everything is interactive between. As a leader, you may just want to look, oh, here's our monitoring year 5. Let me just see our monitoring year 5. Okay, so I have got little groups of data here in this cohort here. And this is just, I'll take off Māori students, put them all on now. So this is my group that I am monitoring. So I can look closely at them. Once again, if I hover over the top, I get to see the name of those students. If I click on them, it takes me directly through. So that's the Stay9. Use the filters on the right as key. But it's the progress over time which allows us a little bit more flexibility to look at groups of students and see what progress looks like over time. So I'm just going to use maths as an example. I'm going to look between 2023 and 2024. I'm going to look at all year levels. I'll just remove the ones I don't have in my school, which is years 9 to 13. I'm going to look at one time point, which is term 1, but you may wish to look at between just in 2024, term 1 to term 4, if you've got those two data sets. So when you're twice yearly reporting in a year, you can actually bring up the data sets and create a report just for those 2 time points. But I'm looking between 2 years to show you progress over 2 years, progress over 1 year. So in here, it creates just a box and whisker graph, okay, or a box plot. So once again, we have got all the data in here too to think about the mean, the upper and the lower quartiles in this data as well. So when I go back to the top, on the left-hand side is 2025, and on the right-hand side is this year, 2026, okay? What I may find easier here is to actually just look at 1 year level. So I'm going to choose year 5s. I'm going to choose year 5s and just remove all the others. Oh, they've all gone now. I'm going to choose year 5s and just look at year 5. So I'm just going to look at 1 year level between 2 time points. If you wanted to look at year 5s back over more years, you could go 2022, 23, 24, and then you get that little picture of growth. So the national reference data sits behind. In this example for maths, you can see it's got diagonal lines from it. That is the old normed data. Okay, so that's showing you they are old norms. This year where it's pale grey, these are the newer norms or the interim norms that we're doing. And next year they will be updated. So now I've just got 1 year level, and now I can consider, so in the box plot is 50%. The top of the whisker is the highest score. The bottom of the whisker is the lowest score. So I've got 50% of the learners sitting here, and where are they? The line in the middle of the box is the median. That's the middle score, okay? So remember that. It's not the mean. But down the bottom here, you can now compare. I can now go down the bottom and see that actually their mean is slightly higher, okay, than the average mean of the reference group. And it's pretty close when it comes to this year. Okay, so it's important to look a little bit deeper. But if I wanted to dig a little bit deeper, I can go over to the filters and I can actually add on 3 groups into this. So I'm going to add boys into one group. I'm going to create another group and add females. Then I'm going to create another group and I have got all. So on the left is all students in the orange. The green is the boys, the males, and the purple is the girls. So now I can see what sort of story is starting to happen over time. So now I can really see that the boys have become quite spread, okay, compared to how tight they were as a group. As a year 4, they're more spread in year 5. The other thing you can do is use the filters on the right-hand side here, where it says show same students. You can do match for match data. So if you wanted to compare who was here last year with who was here this year in 2024, you can click on this little button here, show match students, and now you can see the data slightly shifts. This is what it looked like before. So this school has got new students in, and so it actually changes the data and how you look at it. So you sort of need to understand who's here from time point to time point as well. Okay, but this allows you just to dig a little bit deeper into that data. If I wanted to, I could also add in ethnicity on top of that. So I'm now going to make it around our Māori boys and our Māori girls. The data may be small groups here, so we must remember to take that into consideration so we don't identify students too easily when sharing data. Okay, so their data sets are 5 and 7, so the little groups, okay, and the overall big cohort. But then I start to get another picture again about the students themselves, our Māori females and our Māori male students too. So these reports are all generated within Assist, and it's actually asking questions of this data. But remember, this is one piece of data. I have the richness of information from the classroom teacher that needs to sit alongside this. So this tells us one story when they sat this test at this point in time. What else do you know about these learners? Does this reflect their learning in the classroom and their progress and achievement in the classroom? Ask questions of the data is really key. Okay. The one feature I want to go back to show and share is back in the aggregate report. If you've got syndicates and you want to consider how as a syndicate the students are going, and you've set a static test, that's not the adaptive, the static, which is like the paper-based or the online where all students get the same questions in the test. I'm going to bring up test 2 here to show you. You can actually generate the item report as well to give you information to analyze as a team. Okay, so here we see now we've got, when I've just got 1 year level, when I'm just looking at the same test in 1 year level, I will actually generate a wider suite of tests in the aggregate, a wider set of reports, sorry, in the aggregate. So we'll get the standard year level. We'll get the standard stay 9 report. We've always got that. We've added in a scale score report just to show the spread of everybody in the syndicate. But now I get the item report. And this is the one that you can analyze as a team to think around where are our strengths as a team, where are our next steps do we need to go. Okay, let's just read a little of information across this first. So we have the questions on the left, and then we can put them in order of strand. So you can use the filters here to, or sort of the buttons at the top to get strand. You got the descriptor of the question, and then you have the scale score. This is really important to think about, particularly in maths. What's the level of difficulty of this question? Was it an easier question, 36.7, or was it a harder question, higher up the scale? And so have students come across that concept yet, or is it a next step in their learning? It's really important to think about that. Then we've got the green strip graph, where the green is these are all students in the school for this year level, and the red is the inverted triangle, just to show you where the class is sitting against the national. And what I'm looking when I scroll down here is there a big gap, so a big white gap between the green and the red? Where are my strengths? Where are things I need to work on? Oh, here's one here, question number 8. Read a scale with markings every 5 milliliters. The class only got 13% compared to national was 50. So it was a 50-50 question. 39.9, yep, they should be learning about that. But actually my class didn't do this whole team didn't do very well at this, I guess you could say. It's going to be a next learning step. So I can click on the question number and it takes me through to exactly the question. On the right-hand side, I get a descriptor. There's a misconception. So let's see how they've read it down the bottom. And look, quite a group of students have the misconception about reading scales for capacity. So there is a piece of work that I need to do next time we're doing measurement, or could I do it as a class starter a couple of times in a week to unpack scales, to talk about what they notice. I've also got some ARBs in here that we could go to, and we could use those ARBs as well as points of contact to be able to do these for teaching and learning. Okay, so you can do this at a classroom level, but you can also bring a team together within the aggregate report functionality. Okay, that's in that one. So we have lots of functionality within the section. Now just going to stop this and go back to the PowerPoint, and then I'll open up for any questions. Just a couple of things to finish in the PowerPoint I wish to talk about. We also have a range of equity resources available, and I will just put that link back in the chat again to everybody. Right, here we go. So that's back in the chat. That is the link where you will find all the resources that you need to support teachers and yourselves leaders. So in here, we're updating the kaiako guides. Pānui has just been done and Pangaro has just been finished. We have the orange monitoring progress document that's right at the bottom of the page. We also have in here Kia Rite, Get Ready for PATs. That's an introductory video you can share with your students. And we're actually just about to film an introductory video for teachers as well that will be available next year. We're also adding to the resource suite around resources and sharing with family and whānau as well. So that's the suite of resources where you go to, as well as the kaiako guides, which are well worth a read. So what developments are happening here at NZCR? We are starting to investigate PAT writing. So there'll be a trial in 2025 for that. And if all goes well, hopefully later next year, a PAT writing tool will be available. We're just finalising twice yearly assessment advice. We're talking with the ministry about that for consistency of understanding and language. That will be out soon. Like I said before, we're in the middle of developing a kaiako video around setting everyone up for success, kia rite. This is purposely designed for teachers. The Pangaro and the Pānui guides are updated, but we will add to them next year with the updated norms, which will be available in 2025. And one final little thing. Next year, PAT Pānui, our reading comprehension, our refreshed version that was available online this year will also be available online and in paper format next year. And it will be the only reading comprehension assessment available. So if you're using the old one, that will no longer be available and will be out of date. So if you use paper tests, they are now available for you to purchase through our sales. So sales@nzcr.org.nz. And you can also order them online. There'll be no marking keys. All our data is entered straight into Assist if you're doing paper-based assessments. They are my updates. Now we'll do Q&As, but I'm just going to turn the recording off. Okay. Has anybody got any questions?